Before he became the face of Apple, Steve Jobs was fired from his own company, publicly humiliated. Lost everything at 30, but that failure created one of the greatest comebacks in business history. Steve Jobs was born on February 24, 1955, in San Francisco, California. He was adopted by Paul and Clara Jobs and grew up in a middle-class family in Silicon Valley. His father was a mechanic who taught him how to work with tools and electronics. This is where his love for technology began. In 1972, he enrolled at Reed College in Oregon. After just 6 months, he dropped out because he didn't want his parents spending their savings on an education he didn't believe in. He had no degree, no plan, and no job. He slept on friends' floors, returned Coke bottles for food money, and walked 7 miles every Sunday to get a free meal from a temple. In 1976, at age 21, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak started Apple in a garage. They built the Apple I computer and sold their first product for $666.66. In December 1980, Apple went public. Steve Jobs became a millionaire at just 25 years old. But the biggest failure of his life was still ahead. In 1984, Apple released the Macintosh. It was revolutionary but expensive, and sales were slower than expected. Tension inside the company grew. In 1985, at age 30, Steve Jobs was fired from Apple, the company he founded. He later said it was devastating and that he felt like a public failure. He even considered leaving Silicon Valley. Instead of quitting, he started again. He launched a new company called Next in 1985. The computers were powerful but too expensive, and the company struggled commercially. Another failure. In 1986, Jobs bought a small graphics company from George Lucas for $10 million. That company became Pixar. For years, Pixar struggled and almost went bankrupt, but Jobs continued funding it. In 1995, Pixar released Toy Story, the world's first fully computer-animated movie. It became a massive success, and Pixar went public. Steve Jobs became a billionaire. Meanwhile, Apple was collapsing and close to bankruptcy. In 1997, Apple bought Next, bringing Steve Jobs back to the company he had been fired from. He returned to save Apple when it was losing billions. Jobs made bold decisions. He cut most of Apple's products, focused on simplicity, and rebuilt the brand. In 1998, Apple released the iMac. It became a huge success and returned Apple to profitability. In 2001, Apple launched the iPod with the promise of 1,000 songs in your pocket. Apple became a global brand again. In 2007, Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone, revolutionizing the smartphone industry. In 2010, Apple launched the iPad and created another major technology category. Steve Jobs battled pancreatic cancer for years. On August 24, 2011, he resigned as CEO. On October 5, 2011, he passed away at age 56. Today, Apple is worth trillions of dollars. From college dropout to fired founder to billionaire legend, his journey proved that failure is not the opposite of success, it is part of the journey. Sometimes life hits you with a brick. Don't lose faith.